Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our session. I'm so happy to see you here. Let's start. I'm George Dobrea. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm an MVP on cloud and data center security. Recently, I was awarded by EC Council, the company providing security certification and training programs, forensics, ethical hacking, and so I was awarded as the instructor of the year. It was actually, 2 years ago here in Atlanta again. I'm traveling a lot, providing training and consultancy programs for security. I'm based in Eastern Europe, Bucharest, Romania. My main client this year, it was US Army, delivering preparation programs for their red teams. It's an interesting experience. Sometimes I'm traveling for fun. Now I'm preparing in 2 weeks from now to start an expedition to Patagonia. Well, what about the content of our session? We're discussing how to start preparation for an exam that actually is not available. It's funny, right? Yeah, but we do have everything to start preparation, yeah? At least when the exam will be live, expected in November, or even late October. You must be prepared to pass this exam at the first attempt, right? Why to certify? It's a good question, right? Some reasons for this? We can share some reasons for this? Yes, it could be. It's a Microsoft push. We have to admit this. Other reason? Other good reason? Oh, yeah. It's about recognition. It's something you can take even personally about your skills. But to be honest, I had a lot of discussions those days. I was staffing at the learning booth in the expo hall. And I had the opportunity to talk to so many people. I can recognize some of you here in the room. And, well, I was prepared to take some questions. Why Microsoft is changing again the certifications and so, the new stuff, new requirements. And so I was prepared to answer those questions. However, all people, I was trying to explain the new certification path. They are saying, oh, now it's more clear. Maybe I'm considering to renew my certification, started in 2003, 2000, or I had some people, I was talking them about the NT certification exam, because if I remember, I started to teach Windows NT 3.5, and my first exam I did pass, it was Windows 95, many years ago, of course. But, of course, there are some changes in the Microsoft certification program. And in my opinion, this could make certifications more accessible to many IT professionals. Yeah. Why I'm saying this? So Microsoft just disclosed recently some certification paths for Windows Server 2016, for example, right? We do have the courseware already available. Of course, the exams are not yet available because the product was launched, just 2 days before. But, well, the exams, they will be available probably, as I told you, in late October or beginning of November. And if you're looking at the certification profile here, certification path to get an MCSA, seems to be something that it's more clear, because previously, if I'm looking, for example, at the certification path for Windows 2012, we had exams for administration and advanced administration. What the difference? Yeah, difficult. We had the content of Active Directory stuff spread it in 3 different exams. Network services like DNS spread it in 3 different exams. Yeah, it was a bit difficult preparation. But now, if I'm looking at the MCSA program, new MCSA program for Windows Server 2016, it's more clear because we have a networking exam. We're talking about network services. We have an Active Directory exam, identity, and all related stuff, everything based on Active Directory in a hybrid or cloud environment and so. Yeah? So it's, even the preparation should be more easier to perform, yeah, to acquire all preparations or exam objectives and so. If you are MCSA certified on Windows Server 28 or 2012, there are some people in the room already certified for those server products? Yes, most of you. There is available an upgrade exam that actually it's in beta. You still can register for it. I have no idea for how long it will be still available in beta. Most probably very soon it will be the live exam available. You had some of you having the opportunity already to register for this exam, 743? Not yet. Yeah, maybe it's a good opportunity because we have the testing center. Yeah, the beta exams, you know, are almost free. And so we have 50% off for all the exams. Yeah, it's a good opportunity to test the knowledge. And as well, we have the practice test that measure up for this exam, yeah, which is already available, right? But if I'm looking at the certification part for cloud platform and infrastructure, most of you want to get an MCSA certification, of course, after earning your MCSA, right? And how difficult is to do this? Well, those are the good news. You have to pass just 1 exam to be an MCSA. If you are an MCSA, you have to pass just 1 exam to be an MCSA. Yeah, previously you had to pass 2 or 3 different exams. It was a bit complicated. Yeah. Now just 1 exam after MCSA, and you are earning, after MCSA, you are earning an MCSE. But be aware that certification, MCSE, it's valid just for 1 year now. You have to renew each year. How? Choosing another exam from this list. So each year you have to pass another exam. Sounds good or not? Come on, guys. Look, the technology is changing so fast. We have to upgrade our skills. Yeah. Which one you are going to choose? For example, if you are passing those MCSA exams, which one probably you are choosing to be an MCSE? Okay, that could be many options. Most probably, we're not choosing those ones. Why? Related to Windows Server 2012, for instance, right? I'm highly recommending you this one that it will be available in November. A security exam. It's related to Windows Server 2016. And of course, Microsoft will refresh this list. This is the list available for September. Maybe in October or November, they will add other exams. You have to choose just one in order to earn your MCSA certification or to refresh your certification the next year. Yeah? Well, it's not the main object of our session to discuss about even other certifications, for example, MCSA Cloud Platform. Yeah, you can choose, or Linux, right? You have many options to become an MCSE on cloud and cloud platform and infrastructure, right? Okay, so let's advance. our discussion. First of all, are you familiar with PowerShell? Because if you are not, probably Microsoft certifications are very difficult to earn for you, right? This is the idea. If you're looking even at the available exams for Windows Server 2016, or you're familiar with exams for Windows Server 2012, a lot of questions related to PowerShell, right? Why so much PowerShell in those exams? I have an unofficial explanation. Yeah, that belongs to, yeah, it's my opinion, of course. It's very easy for the people building exam questions, to add such PowerShell questions in an exam, yeah? Just looking for a commandlet, yeah, mentioning something about what to do a process, where to launch, what to do something, what to install, how to configure something. They do search on TechNet, they do have the commandlet, and after that, they're altering that commandlet, building 3 or 4 different options. Make sense? Well, I'm joking, of course. But the idea is definitely you must be very familiar with PowerShell because most of the questions are related to this technology. And my advice is that try to learn PowerShell seriously. Try to build your scripts. Yeah. Try to build it on your workflow, like an administrator. Yeah. Not just repeating some commandlets you are finding and you are altering the parameters. Yeah. It's not a real PowerShell usage. Okay, so let's talk about the exam objectives of this exam, 741, because this is the main subject of our discussion today. There are 6 separate main exam objectives. Right? One, it's about DNS. Another one about DHCP. IPAM, another main topic. Network connectivity and remote access solution, of course, including a lot of topics about remote access here, including VPN and different types of remote access. Implement core and distributed network solutions, yeah, like branch cache, direct access, and so. And the last main topic is advanced network infrastructure, which is a new topic. We're discussing about new network feature added in Windows Server 2016, in virtualization especially. We're discussing about software-defined networking. Yeah, this is the main topic of this subject. I do propose you to take one by one those main topics and trying to enforce some ideas you should keep in mind when you're going to prepare the exam. Again, my presentation is not based on the real exam experience, but the exam objectives are already available on Microsoft Learning site, right? So we can rely our discussion on this. And I do remember the networking exam. It's probably, some of you maybe do remember as well, when you did make your MCSA or MCSC in previous versions of Windows Server, the networking exam, it was the most difficult one. Yeah, because if you do have an exam on Active Directory or identity, so it's just a big topic to discuss. Everything is related to Active Directory. But in our situation, we have many, many different services, and you are administering all of them in different ways. Yeah, this is the difficult part of this exam preparation, because you are preparing many topics, for many topics, yeah, in this exam. Okay, so about DNS. Everybody in this room is very familiar with DNS. Actually, we have legacy topics, yeah, how to set up DNS, how to configure, and so on. basic understanding of DNS. And we have as well the new features available in Windows Server 2012 R2 or Windows Server 2016. My session is not intending to be a general session about new features in Windows Server 2016, but I'm trying to enforce some idea, some concept that I'm considering useful for you to prepare the upcoming exam, when they'll be available. Well, DNS, it's about 15–20% of the exam questions, are related to DNS. So here is the list of some features in DNS you should be familiar. If you are talking about exam preparation, okay, I hope we will have the opportunity to discuss more about tips of exam preparation at the end of our discussion today. But by the way, what I'm recommending you to take this list for each topic before registering for the exam. If you are not familiar with all those topics, please do not register for exam. Please make sure all those topics you are familiar, you understand, you know how to set up for each of those topics. I have some slides with red headers that actually are copying the topics published by Microsoft for this exam, right? You have to know in order to be familiar, in order to make sure that you can answer all exam questions, right? Well, most of topics here are not new. How to install DNS, how to deploy, about root hints, delegation, and so on, logging, delegation administration. Nothing new here. But you can see here as well new topics. Which one? For example, supported DNS deployment scenarios on Nano server. Okay, this is new, right? Or implementing DNS policies. Well, this is something new, right? Okay, so we're going to clarify some security options here, like DNS-based authentication of named entities. It's new. DNSSEC, we had previously in Windows Server 2012, we had this. But some topics are really new in DNS, yeah? DNS on Nano server. Are you familiar already with Nano server? Because if you are not, you must be, yeah? We don't have dedicated topics in this exam to Nano server. Maybe this one, it's one of them. But if you are talking about the first exam, 740, a lot of topics related to installation, configuration of Nano server, yeah? Containers, you know. And we have here the opportunity to learn how to install DNS on Nano server, because Nano server could be a perfect DNS server in our environment. Yeah? It's less vulnerable, it's easy to install, but you have to make sure you are able to install the server, yes, to use PowerShell scripts and all the flow in order to configure DNS Nano server as a DNS server, right? Because most probably you'll see in the real exam some questions related to this. You know, anytime when a new exam is released, even the exam, basically in the exam objectives, you can see legacy topics. They are enforcing a lot of new topics. For example, in this exam we're talking about, please be sure that a lot of questions they are related to Windows Server 2016, right? Even you are starting, this is your first exam, you could see a lot of questions related on new features in Windows Server 2016 that we actually were not in the previous versions of Windows Server. So even they are adding just few new features on a service, be prepared to see in your real exam a lot of questions related to this. Yeah. And, well, some new features related to DNS security. You know. Some of them are available already in the previous versions of Windows Server. Some are new, like this one, DNS-based authentication of name entities, DNSSEC. Please make sure you understand all those concepts, because most probably DNSSEC and related security topics that you could see as being one of the favorite topics in the DNS-related questions. Yeah. You have to learn a bit. Very good explanations you do have on TechNet. Very good explanations. I'm inviting you to study, to look at the new features in DNS and try to study a bit. There are some scenarios there on TechNet available about the new features in DNS security. Other topics related to DNS. Yeah? There are some new features here, or everything is just common stuff. Global name zone, we had previously this. This is not so. It's about single label names, implement single label names. Yeah. Zone scavenging and so. What is new? The last topics here. Configure records in the zone scope and configuring policies for zones. I do have some slides explaining a bit this, because you must be familiar with those topics. Well, how to install and configure DNS? Well, just common topics here. I don't think this is very difficult to know and to prepare types of records and so. Make sure you understand how in Active Directory implementation of DNS, the partitions, about the partitions, yeah, how the information of DNS is stored in the Active Directory partitions, right? What about the forest DNS zone, domain DNS zone? Because when you're creating an Active Directory integrated zone, you have that opportunity to choose how to publish that information in a forest. Yeah, please make sure you understand those topics. And this is one of the favorite topics in the Microsoft exams, and related to DNS. And well, some people are failing to provide a good answer here. It's about stub zones, conditional forwarding, zone delegation, and so. For example, common questions in an exam. You have a specific scenario to implement in a large organization, and you are configuring stub zones, you are configuring secondary zones, you are configuring conditional forwarding. And you are presenting a scenario, and you have to decide which one is the best for you, right? Please make sure you understand when it's better to use conditional forwarding, when it's better to use stub zones. Yeah? It's very clear explanation on TechNet, in Microsoft Learning Materials, but please make sure you understand and you are ready to take those questions related to DNS scenarios. Yeah? Even this is old stuff, because it was, I think, conditional forwarding, it was in Windows Server 2003, I think. 2003, yeah. It was in 2003. But still, we are not very familiar sometimes with those implementation scenarios. Yeah? Zone scavenging. Yeah. This is a favorite topic in some exam questions. Yeah. Please make sure how to configure this. Go to advanced there on a zone, and you could see that time to live for yeah. It's very important to understand how to set up zone scavenging at the zone level, or even at the record, how to do this for different records. Yeah, different type of records, how to create using PowerShell, mass creation of DNS records, right? It's very important to do this using PowerShell. Yeah, what else here? I think it's clear enough. Oh, we do have the opportunity to create unknown record. Now in Windows Server 2016, you have to read something about this. Unknown type records. It's supported now in DNS in Windows Server 2016, right? DNS policies. This is something new in DNS policy, and I'll give you an example. Yeah, you can create DNS policy in order to create, to handle separately, in a separate way, queries coming from clients, but using different conditions, like time of the day, for example, date, time, or even interface, taking those requests, yeah, from the clients. And I'll give you an example immediately. You are creating based on subnets and so network interfaces. And of course, there is no GUI interface for policies. You are recommended to learn how to configure using PowerShell. Yeah? And I have here a scenario of usage of split-brain DNS using DNS server policies. You are familiar with this concept, split-brain DNS? Yes, probably. How to solve such scenario normally in a real implementation? Because until now, using DNS, Windows Server as a DNS server, you had to use different DNS servers. One for external requests, another one for internal requests. It was not possible to host on a single server and to differentiate between requests from internal client and external clients, right? It was a bit difficult to set up this environment of split-brain DNS. Yeah? Now we have, using DNS policies, we have the opportunity to solve this issue using just one server. You don't need separate DNS servers anymore, which is cool. And the scenario here, you have two separate websites, yeah, one for internal clients, another one for external clients, yeah, different IP addresses, but using the same name. How to differentiate? Yeah, now I have here the scenario based on PowerShell. First of all, you are adding a zone scope named internal. Actually, you don't have to configure internal and external zone scope. It's enough just internal or just external, because the other one, it will be default. Yeah? And after that, you are adding DNS server user records, yeah, using the IP address, and you are creating the resolution policy. And what's happening? The differentiator is the network interface receiving the requests from internal client or external client. And requests coming to DNS, to a different interface, IP interface to the DNS server, will be treated differentially, right? Yes, sir?
You need two NICs to do that?
You need, sorry?
Do you need two network interface cards to be able to?
Yes, of course. And normally you have this, right? You have this. You can differentiate. But it's not the only differentiator in a such situation. It's a very simple scenario. Yeah? You can build even out, because conditions to build DNS policies that could be even more sophisticated. Yeah, I have a very simple scenario here, right? Yes, sir?
Will we have access to these slides later?
Actually, I'm not sure if this session is recorded. Not sure if they'll be published. But by the way, I'll provide you my email address. If not available after, just please send me an email, and I'll give you the link to the slides, right? Okay, good question. Okay, some tips to remember for DNS, yeah? Host names, use forwarders rather than root hints. Oh, good news, DNS in Windows Server 2016 is supporting IP version 6 root hints. if you want to use, right? It was not supported in the previous version. Yeah. Potential caching issues when you troubleshoot name resolution and so, Active Directory integrated zones, global names, be familiar with this. It's not a new concept. It was maybe in 2008, I think. It was created, this concept of global name zone. In order to solve single label names, not to be necessary to have wins. For example, in a large environment, enterprise environment using different zones, to have a single link for a site like HTTP learning or HTTP marketing or so on, providing a single label name. Yeah? Global DNS names, it's serving this, right? Please make sure you are reviewing this information, because I've seen in exams a lot of questions related to this. Okay, so DNS policies, just a simple question. Yeah, please read the question and let's suppose which is the best answer to this question. What you are saying? It's a very simple question. Let's vote. Who is for A? Nobody. Who is for B? Few hands. Who is for C? More hands. Who is for D? Well, all right. Congratulations. You won. Okay. So, second topic. Second main topic, DHCP. DHCP, old stuff. Yeah, what can be new in DHCP in Windows Server 2016, right? However, let's have a review on DHCP staff. And those are the exam topics. Yeah, you could see on Microsoft Cert. Yeah, you must be familiar with all those topics. Yeah, how to configure, how to authorize a DHCP server, reservations, options, configure the policies, which policies are something new, not in Windows Server 2016, but in the previous versions of Windows, Windows Server. Okay, relay agent, all stuff, using DHCP version 6, yeah, serving IP version 6, export, import DHCP server, DHCP server migration, preferred subject, preferred topic in many exam questions. How to import the DHCP database, if the server fails, how to rebuild the server, how to import the database, and so on and so on. Even it's a very simple stuff. I've seen very few people correctly answering these questions. Yeah. Yes, we do have. Yeah. Let's see. Good question. So, some of you may be confused, still confused, with some strange icons. Yeah, somewhere in a configuration of different scopes, servers, and so. There is an explanation here. It's good to know, right? If a server is authorized or not, if it's not authorized, and so, some alerts, if the scope is down, the server is not authorized, and so on and so on. There is a significance for each of those icons, yeah? Okay, so what about implementation, let's say, an advanced DHCP solution? Super scopes. Yeah, it's very easy to understand this concept, yeah? If you don't have, let's say, more available addresses in a scope, it's good to create another scope for the same network and building a super scope. Yeah, it's just, don't expect to set too many options at the super scope level. Yeah, it's just for managing, starting, stopping, so yeah, managing an entire, a larger pool of addresses. PowerShell command lets available for DHCP. We do have here. You must be familiar with this. DHCP version 6, yeah, stateful, stateless configuration, and so. What's the difference? Stateful, stateless. Well, it's a basic idea. Stateful, providing IP address, DHCP is providing IP address and DNS information. Stateless is providing just the DNS server information because the IP address is provided by the router. Yeah? Okay. No longer NAP. This is something to remember because we don't have any more NAP. It's a deprecated service in Windows Server 2016. You do remember maybe the previous exams for Windows Server 2012, a lot of questions, nasty questions or so related to NAP configuration. And so there is no more NAP. Yeah? Okay. So, manage and maintaining DHCP, list period, and so DHCP managing a DHCP database, failover, yeah, your question, sir. We're going to see immediately. DHCP name protection, yeah, this is an interesting topic, how to protect, yeah, based on the DNS configuration. What is DHCP failover? It was added in Windows Server 2012 R2, right? This is not very new, actually. Instead of building a regular cluster to provide high availability for DHCP solutions, now we have a very easy, let's say, it's a wizard to build a DHCP failover. You need 2 servers, and we have basically an automated process in order to build such to build such DHCP failover in 2 scenarios. One is hot standby mode, and another one it's load sharing mode. Which one is by default? It's sharing mode. I mean 50-50. Yeah, if you are setting up a scope, that scope will be distributed in the 50-50 way between the servers. But of course, you can set up that standby mode. A single server is providing addresses normally, and if there is a failover, so that server, after a while, starting to, depending on maximum client lead time, there are some parameters to configure, that server is taking control and is starting to distribute addresses to the clients. Yeah? Please make sure you understand this concept, how to set up, how to build authorization, authentication, I mean, yeah? Firewall rules are automatically configuring during DHCP installation and so, which is good, but you must be familiar with this stuff, yeah? DHCP security options, we have some security options. I'm not going too much in detail here. I'm inviting you to study more. DHCP, for example, disconnecting, because there is no way to avoid distribution of addresses to, let's say, malicious clients, maybe. Why I'm saying this? Because we don't have NAP anymore. NAP policies are not anymore available. So please make sure you're disconnecting ports and so on and so, providing some kind of physical security. Enabling DHCP auditing to track DHCP usage as a security protection measure. And DHCP name protection, what is this? It's preventing Windows operating system from having the DNS name registration overwriting, but non-Windows operating system using the same name. Yeah, please make sure you understand how it's working this. Yeah? Okay. So, example question for DHCP. How to build a DHCP, configure DHCP, how to build a failover cluster. So, it's saying choose all apply. Actually, I can say, to be easier, there are 4 options to choose from 6. Yeah, the first one. Yeah, of course, you have this. It's just how to configure. You have to learn how to configure a failover, right? Failover cluster. Add a DHCP server to the failover cluster. Next is deploy a new server. Add a DHCP server role on that server. And that's all. Right? Okay. So just to figure how to build a DHCP failover cluster, which is not very difficult, but you must be familiar with this concept, right? Okay. IPAM. How familiar are you with IPAM? Yeah, I see. I see some people familiar with this. It's very useful in very large networking environments. Yeah. In order to manage what? IP addresses, DNS, to discover first domain controllers, DNS server, DHCP servers, other types of servers like NPS servers, and to manage those servers, right? Like DNS, DHCP, NPS servers, right? This is the main goal of IPAM in a large environment. It was new in Windows Server 2012, right? Yeah. Those are the exam topics related to this. We have even more. Yeah, how to manage after setting up the IPAM environment. Try to manage DNS, try to manage DHCP, and how to do delegate administration, some security stuff related to IPAM. So from my experience, most of the exam candidates are not very familiar with IPAM because it's something they are not using in their environment. It's something new in the previous version of Windows Server. So please make sure you are dedicated enough time in order to build your knowledge related to IPAM. Yeah, even it's not so new, but please make sure you understand, maybe to do some labs on this. It's not very easy to set up an environment. You need some hardware. Maybe you can find a virtual lab or something like that to practice a bit on IPAM. Yeah, we do have a Microsoft Courseware. We have how to build, how to administer this. Yeah. And the last topic in the exam is auditing IPAM. Yeah, just auditing, troubleshooting, and so on. Just a few considerations about IPAM. Yeah, because I suppose some of you are not very familiar with this topic. We have something new in Windows Server 2016 because previously IPAM, it was working just in a single forest environment. Now you can implement IPAM in a multiple forest environment. Of course, you need trust. Yeah, you need trust between domains you are managing, between the forest you are managing. But it's more appropriate for a very large enterprise environment. Yeah, it was a limitation there to use IPAM just in a single forest environment. Yeah, and basically you are discovering those. You are managing, first of all, IP addresses. Pools of IP addresses is very easy to manage. You have an interface, you have PowerShell scripts in order to manage all an interface, eliminating basically the nightmare of managing large pools of addresses in enterprise and large enterprises. And after that, discovering resources like domain controllers, DHCP servers, and DNS servers, and managing this environment. Yeah. Unified interface in order to manage. You don't have to connect to each DNS server or to each DHCP server in order to manage individually those servers. So you have a unified interface in order to manage all those servers. And there are some questions in exam related to IPAM configuration. Yeah. How to configure. Yeah, some considerations. Do not install on a member server, not on domain controller, because if you are installing IPAM on a domain controller, you are not able to discover the Active Directory environment. Do not install IPAM on a DHCP server, because otherwise you are not discovering DHCP environment. It should be a neutral server, yeah, a standalone server. That server you are installing, and you have different hybrid scenarios of implementations, now centralized, and so. Okay, after discovery, you have the option to manage or not those servers. because I've seen in some enterprises they're using just to discover the environment, different servers. They're not managing their servers using IPAM. It could be a partial usage of IPAM scenarios, right? Okay, supported in the previous version, it was supposed to use, for example, all information related to IPAM. It was possible to host it in Windows internal database only. But now you can use an external SQL support database. This is a change in Windows Server 2016, right? The service is more flexible and more scalable. Okay, and I told you about multiple forest environment in Windows Server 2016, right? Okay. A new main topic. A new main topic, it's related to network connectivity and remote access solutions. You could see here, well, the percentage is higher. Because we're including here in this main topic, they're including in the exam more topics, not just one, like in DHCP or DNS. We're discussing about NAT, configure routing. Yeah, you must be very familiar with this topic. This is nothing new here. Yeah, it's old stuff. I'm pretty sure everybody can answer those questions here. But they are including in this main topic configuring VPN. Some of those topics, you must be familiar with those topics. Yeah, configuring site-to-site VPN solutions. And, well, configuring direct access. Well, direct access is something we have to discuss a bit more, yeah, about the concept of direct access, right? VPN and routing. How to install and configure remote access role, yeah, using PowerShell, of course. Yeah, not only GUI, or using the wizard, the traditional wizard. How to implement network access translation, yeah, common stuff. How to configure VPN settings, different VPN settings in different scenarios. Yeah, because we have different protocols, VPN protocols. Please remind me which protocols we can use in Windows Server for VPN, to configure VPN. The old one, PPTP, yes, okay. L2TP over IPsec, yeah, that combination, layer 2 tunneling protocol. Another one? SSTP, which is communications over the port 443, right, to avoid blocking by firewalls and so. And there is another one. Huh? Come on, let's say. It was in Windows Server 2012. VPN reconnect, doing VPN reconnect. Please remind me, which protocol doing VPN reconnect? Now, IPsec, it's related to the area combination, layer 2 tunneling protocol plus IPsec. Yeah? Yes. Say again? Right, that one. It's supporting VPN reconnect. Very good in mobile connections and so on. All right? Because it's automatically reconnecting the connection. Yeah? When the connection is broken, it's automatically, by design, it's automatically redialing the connection and reestablishing the connection. Yeah? It's very popular in mobile environments. Okay, so remote dial-in settings for users. Dial-in, this is all concept. Yes, but we still have this configuration in Active Directory on each user, right? This is the term there. And configuring web application proxy. Are you familiar with the web application proxy? Oh, this is something new, right? Actually not new in Windows Server 2016, but in Windows Server 2012 or 2. Yeah, because it's replacing, it's based on the UAG, Unified Access Gateway. It's an implementation that actually we do have in Windows Server. It's not related to the forefront stuff, but it's now implemented it's a feature in each Windows Server. Yeah, you could implement remote this web application proxy. I will have a slide, I think, for trying to explain this. Yeah, this one about web application proxy. Yeah, and actually, it's very good to provide additional layer of security authentication for the applications, for our applications. So for this reason, they are insisting a lot in the exam with questions related to this. At least for Windows Server 2012, I've seen questions related to this. So basically, you have this web application proxy server deployed where? In a DMZ, right? So the authentication is not provided here because it's too dangerous to let the authentication traffic to go inside on your network, right? Instead, you are collecting the authentication request from the clients at the web application proxy level and how to send this to the domain controller. It's mandatory to use Federation services, right? And you are sending the authentication request to the Federation Services server. This server is like an authentication proxy sending to the domain controller. It's passing there. And after the client, it's allowed, according policies, and so it's allowed to send the request to the web server inside. Yeah, the process will be completed. Yeah. It's very important to understand this. I think I have a question related to this. Yeah. It's a scenario of usage of web application proxy. And okay, it's saying user credential cannot be sent as part of the authentication request. So you don't have, it's not allowed to send the credentials to the application, yeah, the application server. So probably the best scenario is that to use web authentication proxy. But what kind of authentication you are using? It could be too complicated, yeah, because if you do remember the scenario, what kind of authentication? Because you are implementing Federation services. And the Federation Services server is sending to the domain controller hashes of credentials. It's Windows. Yeah, you are using Windows, right? It's very easy. You don't have to use certificates. You don't have to use additional, because Federation Services, this is a, sorry?
The proxy is using a certificate.
Yeah, yeah, that's, yes, yeah, you're right, definitely. On the other hand, you must be familiar in preparing this exam we're talking about. It's about network services. However, this is a good example. You must be familiar with topics like identity, authentication, Active Directory. If you are asking me, for people starting now to refresh their certification of maybe this is the first exam you are going to prepare, you're starting now the preparation, please do not start the preparation just for one exam. My advice is that try to combine, because if you are not familiar enough with Active Directory, there is no way to pass this exam of network services. Yeah, and I'm advising anytime, even I know maybe it's a hard to understand concept. If you are, for example, taking training, 3 courses, please don't do this. Attending the first training, trying to pass the exam, related exam. Now, in this situation for MCSA Windows Server, take all 3 courses, and after that, try to prepare one by one the exams. Because you'll see a lot of content, you must be familiar. If you are not familiar with authentication and Active Directory or certificate users, there is no way to pass this network services exam. It's my opinion, at least. Maybe you agree or not. Yeah. Okay, so direct access. This is another concept that you should understand very well in order to pass the exam. I know not so many companies already implementing direct access and so because you are still relying on VPN. That makes sense. But how to understand this concept of direct access? Basically, you are providing. Originally, it was based on IP version 6 communication, right? So you can use at least Windows 7 clients and so on. But basically, you are establishing, you are providing to a client the same experience. Doesn't matter the client is inside of the network or outside the network. Because normally now, if the client is inside the network, the client has direct access to all internal resources. If the client is outside, he or she should dial the VPN, right? Which is annoying sometimes, yeah, for the client. But now, direct access, providing unified experience. The client must be connected to the internet and is the same experience, having access to the external resources and to internal resources without necessary to make a different configuration or to do something for this. Yeah? This is the direct access experience. But of course, this is the regular user point of view, right? About user experience. From technical point of view, it's not very easy to configure direct access. Yeah? And you must understand, you must be familiar with the concept of direct access. Yeah? Let's suppose you have an internal client. The client is in the internal network. Yeah? And the internal computer is trying to access what? Network resources inside. This client should be able to access directly those resources, right? And first of all, you need something which is network location server, NLS. What is this? A web server, sharing a folder, sharing a resource. If the client is able to access that network location server directly using the DNS internal provider resources, client concludes, I'm in the internal network. I can reach those resources directly. I'm going to access them directly, right? Okay, of course, there is kind of security. Network location server should have a certificate that the client trusts. Okay, but those are the implementation details. Yeah. The internal client should differentiate between a real network location server or a fake one. Yeah. This is based on certificate, a valid certificate. What's happening if, and finally the client is connecting to the internal resources. What's happening for an internal client? See, here it's a big differentiation. Yeah, because the internal server, the internal DNS server is not helping anymore because the client from the outside has no direct access to the internal DNS server. Okay. The client has access to what? To the external DNS server. And the external DNS server is not hosting any internal resources, right? However, how the client is differentiated, how the client is able to access the internal resources. This is the point here. Because the client, he's trying to access what? He's trying first to access that network location server. Of course, client is not able to access in network. It's not available for him. Yeah? And instead, he's trying to access DNS server external, but for the internal resources, this client should use a different DNS service. It's like a forwarding. But this forwarding is based on what? Name resolution policy table that could be deployed to the clients through group policy. It's saying if you are searching for a particular internal network resource, you should direct your DNS request not to this external server, but try to send your request to the direct access server. And the direct access server, basically, it's managing the connection to Active Directory server, to the DNS server, and providing you the right answer. just for the resources located internally here. It's like a conditional forwarding for DNS, but this time we're using this feature available for clients and configurable through group policy. We're calling this name resolution policy table. Yeah. So please make sure you are able to understand how it's working direct access in different scenarios, because in the exam they are playing a bit with direct access questions. Yeah? Okay, some recommendations here. There is a direct access could provide you even the opportunity to access the client from the internal network, because now if you are implementing a VPN, it's just one way. But using direct access, somebody, an admin, could access the client. It's a bidirectional connection. Yeah? And if you are using Windows 10, for example, is not a certificate for client certificate is not anymore required. You don't have to implement PKI for this, just for Windows 7. Why? Because we have Windows 8 and Windows 10 supporting Kerberos proxy authentication. So you don't need to deploy certificate to the Windows Server client. But there is a limitation for direct access. The client must be domain member, the machine. Otherwise, you are not able to. How to make an external client that actually it was never inside of your network, how to join the domain. Use this feature, offline domain join. You should learn about this. It's very, very useful for different scenarios. You could join a machine to a domain without necessarily to be in connection, direct connection with the domain controller. Please make sure you understand, you are familiar with this concept of offline access domain join. Okay, implementing network policy server. It's about radius, right? Common radius implementation we had in many versions of Windows Server. This is not something new here. Please make sure you understand how to configure all steps in order to configure NPS, which is basically the radius implementation of Windows Server. Keep in mind, not supported on Windows Server 2016, not supported NAP, Network Access Protection, right? Good news, maybe, yeah, at least for exam preparation. Okay, so, however, you know, even this is a very old concept. Some people, they still have issues in understanding network policy server. How is working network policy server policies. I remember when one of my daughters, she was 17, she was preparing, I think it was for 2003 or something like that. She was preparing for the last exam of MCSA. Yeah, this is true. The last exam, she failed, I think, twice or so. This exam about networking. And the main issue, it was about, yeah, understanding the server policies, yeah. But after she understood this concept, she was able to pass the exam. I remember this one story, yeah. Yeah, please make sure you understand how to configure. It's about the policy conditions. It's about the permissions for a user you could set up in Active Directory, for example. And after that, additional profile settings, yeah. Please make sure you understand how to play with those three type of restrictions. Configuring the NPS policies, yeah, supporting IP version 4, IP version 6, managing NPS templates in large implementation scenarios, for example, in order to configure the same settings on different servers. You are exporting like a template configuration, you are importing, it's an XML file, and so on. Okay. Another topic, core and distributed network solution. Well, here very common topics like how to configure a subnet using, let's say, different network devices, basic routing, and so fundamentals of IP version 6, very basic topics here. To understand IP version 4 or IP version 6 subnetting and so, stateful, stateless addressing. But you should insist a bit on this, how to configure interoperability between IP version 4, IP version 6. Yeah, you have scenarios using ISATAP, 624, Tredo, yeah. This is something new, yeah, implementing Border Gateway Protocol, BGP, as a routing protocol, yeah. Now it's supported in Windows Server. Yeah. Well, here, understanding IP version 4, subnetting, and so, addressing IP version 6, some questions related to IP version 6, how to configure routing using IP version 6, and so, and tunneling. Please make sure you understand all 4 scenarios, 624, ISATAP, Tredo, and port proxy. Yeah. This is not actually new stuff because it's supported from Windows Server 2008, all those scenarios, but please review, even if you're familiar, please review those scenarios, implementation scenarios. Branch office, DFS and branch office. Yeah, DFS. Still using DFS in your environment? Maybe, yeah, maybe. File transfer, you are using, not relying on file applications, traditional file application services, but we do have DFSR, yeah, which is a protocol providing kind of security, providing compression, and so on. And those are the topics you must be familiar in the real exam. Yeah, like this. This is a familiar picture, why to implement distributed file system, right? DFS in your environment. Yeah, servers in different locations. Cache the referral, and so this is a very common scenario, but I have here some additional topics you must be familiar, yeah? How to optimize DFS, using, for example, configuring the replications, disabling referrals to optimize the replication, clone the DFSR database for initial replication, because otherwise the replication it will be too long, taking too long time. You're providing cloning using it's not a regular copy because you have to provide the hashes to the files you are copying, and in order to keep the copy you have to use tools like Robocopy, Windows Backup in order to keep the hashes of the files, because otherwise the replication is not considered valid. Yeah, the files are not considered to be identical ones. Yeah. Okay, so not so many new topics here. We have some reporting based on PowerShell. You can do reporting, yeah. Propagation test, health report, propagation report, and so. This is a tool to test replication, and of course, be familiar with all those commandlets in PowerShell in order to implement DFS. Okay, branch cache. Branch cache is another topic very familiar in Microsoft exams right now. Yeah, be sure you understand the difference between distributed caching mode without a server, dedicated server, and hosted caching mode when you are using a dedicated server for this. Please make sure how you are providing security using a certificate for that server, how you are checking the hashes of the files, and so please make sure you understand the mechanism. I have here a question, exam question. Not spending too, it's a very basic question, yeah. The answer should be very easy to provide it. Which one? Okay, it's B, yeah, very clear. It's a very basic question. Probably you don't see such question in the exam. Yeah. I would like to, but sorry, I cannot promise you. Okay. And the last topic of our discussion, it's about the new services in Windows Server 2016, network services in 2016. This is something to learn, actually. A lot of terms, a lot of abbreviations, a lot of concepts to understand. You must be familiar with all those terms, like switch embedded timing, additionally to traditional NIC timing. Yeah, data center bridging, SMB direct, and so VMQ. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff to learn. Yeah, about this. For example, previously in Windows Server 2012, it was not possible to use for storage and for virtualization the same network interfaces. Right? You had to use different physical interfaces to take benefits of those features. RDMA, for example, remote direct memory access. But now in Windows Server 2016, it's possible because we have this new feature, switch embedded timing, that allows you to use the same network interfaces for both purposes, for let's say for storage as well, high performance storage, and for virtualization as well. Yeah, it's just a concept. Virtual switch, we have virtual switches. This is a good feature, yeah, because we had now previously virtual switches in Microsoft in Hyper-V, and now we do have the opportunity to build the virtual switches, including NAT. Some advanced features you can configure at the network interface level in virtual network interfaces, virtual machine queue, IPsec offloading, yeah, single root I/O virtualization. Software-defined networking. This is exam topic, yeah, one of the last topic in the exam. What is software-defined networking? Basically, you are virtualizing. This is the main goal, to virtualize the network layer in a data center. Yeah, you are managing all your stuff, switches, routers, physical interfaces from a software integrated from the top level, yeah, interface. And in order to do this, we're supporting this in Windows Server 2016, this concept of network virtualization, not only virtual machine virtualization, but you could have multiple virtual networks on the same physical network. This is the main concept. And each virtual network is isolated from others. New concepts like, please make sure you are familiar with generic route encapsulation. Yeah, we have this. Basically, you are assigning to each network interfaces 2 separate IP addresses. Yeah, one is a customer address space, another one is provider address space, and you are not doing just IP address switching, changing, and so you are using this concept of generic route encapsulation. Yeah, and network virtualization policies. Yeah, there is another main concept that allows you to specify on which server the virtual machines are running. You are setting up an affinity, yeah, between the physical host and the virtual machines. Yeah, it's good to understand this concept: provider's address space and customer address space. Network controller, which is another very important feature in Windows Server 2016. Yeah, and some features in network controller. I'm not insisting here because there is a lot of study to do on those new terms. But please make sure you understand all of those terms, like software load balancers, yeah, centralized firewall, yeah. Data center firewall, for example, which is basically integrated. Yeah, it's centrally managed in your network infrastructure, or software load balancing. Yeah, which is layer 4 load balancing, north, south, east, west. Yeah, remote access gateway, which is another feature of network controller in Windows Server 2016. Yeah, BGP routing and so forwarding, IPsec. Some requirements in order to deploy a network controller. Please make sure you're familiar with all of them. Yeah, domain base and so. So, at the end, some learning resources, advices for you preparing this exam. This course is already available. You can have it at the training center or online. Yeah, Mark online. Actually, the structure of this training, it's not copying the structure of the exam. There are 11 modules in this training. There are 6 main exam objects in the real exam. But basically, you could see a match. You could find a match between those modules and the exam topics. Useful resource, tips to prepare and something like that. News, Born to Learn site. TechNet. This is the main resource, in my opinion, if you're going to prepare the exam. Yeah, TechNet. It's very well. Windows Server 2016, you could find a lot of topics, examples, scenarios, and so. Please read very carefully all documentation available on TechNet. TechNet Virtual Labs, some exams started to be available. Labs started to be available, just few of them on Windows Server 2016, but probably you'll see more after this conference, because we have a hands-on labs area. We do have a lot of Windows Server 2016 labs, and all those labs probably they'll be available after that on TechNet. Yeah, please check after a while. Microsoft Virtual Academy, there is a very good training in Microsoft Virtual Academy about new features in Windows Server 2016. It's a long training. Yeah, maybe it's 8 hours or something like that. But you can understand very well the new features in Windows Server 2016, highly recommendable. And study a lot. Okay, so thank you very much for attending my session. If you do have some questions. Yes, sir?
Can we have your email address, please?
Yes, of course. I'm going to the first. Yeah, this one. You can come see me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Feel free to contact me if you need some. And I promise you I'll publish the slide, even the conference will not going to publish the slides. I'll publish somewhere. If you send me an email, I'll be very happy to provide you the links for this exam. Yeah. Thank you very much. Good luck for your exam.